The Silent Awakening. Captain Ilara Rhodes stared out into the abyss of space, her fingers lightly brushing the controls of the U.S. Resolute. The ship, a masterpiece of human engineering, cut through the cold void of the unknown frontier. The stars twinkled like distant promises, each one a reminder of humanity's insatiable curiosity. The Resolute was the pinnacle of human innovation, sleek, powerful, and designed for the uncharted reaches of space. But as Ilara sat in the command chair, she had no idea that her routine patrol would soon lead to a confrontation that would redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. The hum of the ship's engines was steady and reassuring, but there was an unusual tension in the air. A quiet ping suddenly broke the silence, its soft tone a stark contrast to the weight of the moment. Aura, the ship's artificial intelligence, spoke in her usual calm, neutral voice. "Captain, I'm detecting a significant anomaly at the edge of our sensor range. It's large, far larger than anything we've encountered before. Energy signatures are erratic. It doesn't match any known civilization in our database." Ilara's brow furrowed. She leaned forward, scanning the console in front of her. "What do you mean by erratic, Aura? Can you identify it?" The AI paused for a fraction of a second, processing millions of data points. "I cannot, Captain. It is unlike anything we've seen before. The anomaly is moving at an inconsistent velocity, almost as if it's searching for something." A chill ran down Ilara's spine. Her mind raced. An anomaly this close to human space was never good news. "Plot a course, Aura. Let's take a closer look, but maintain stealth protocols. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." The ship's engines powered down slightly as the Resolute's advanced cloaking systems engage. Ilara knew that, for now, they were invisible to whatever was out there. Still, the quiet unease inside her remained. They had never encountered anything like this before. She trusted the ship's systems, but this was new ground. As the minutes ticked by, the anomaly grew larger on the ship's sensor grid, revealing itself as a vast fleet. Hundreds of massive ships, their forms gleaming with cold alien design. They hung in space like silent giants, their dark hulls a stark contrast to the backdrop of stars. The ships appeared perfectly coordinated, as if they were waiting, watching, and observing from a distance. Each one was larger than the Resolute itself, its size alone enough to send a ripple of dread through the heart. "Aura, what are we looking at?" Ilara whispered, her voice barely audible. "I am unsure, Captain. Based on their composition, I'm guessing this is a military fleet, but their design, it's not like anything in our records. I'm detecting unfamiliar materials, something beyond our understanding." Ilara's mind raced. Military. The thought sent her pulse into overdrive. The last thing humanity needed was a hostile force capable of overwhelming them. The anomaly's patterns suggested no other purpose than to advance, to conquer. She gripped the armrests of her chair, her thoughts snapping back to her duty. "Can you identify their origin?" "Negative," Aura replied. "The fleet is not broadcasting any known identifiers. They are silent, Captain." The realization hit like a thunderclap. A silent fleet, hovering near the edge of human space, and it wasn't just a reconnaissance mission. It was an invasion. "Where are they headed?" Ilara demanded. Aura processed the data rapidly. "Their trajectory suggests they're headed toward the Sol system, Captain. Earth." The blood drained from Ilara's face. The Sol system, humanity's cradle, its home. She had always known there would be threats to Earth's safety, but to face them here, in the vast and uncaring reaches of space, was different. They were unprepared. No warning, no allies, just a lone human vessel facing the unknown. "We need to warn Earth," Ilara said, her voice hardening with resolve. Before she could issue further orders, the ship's alarm blared to life, slicing through the tense atmosphere of the bridge. "Aura, what's happening?" Ilara shouted, standing up in alarm. The AI's voice came quickly, calm but urgent. Captain, their sensors have detected us. Stealth systems compromised. They've locked onto our position. The cold reality of the situation slammed into Ilara. The fleet had found them. The Empire's ships were massive and deadly, far outgunning the Resolute in terms of sheer firepower. But Ilara wasn't about to back down. Not while humanity's future hung in the balance. "Battle stations," she commanded. "Let's show them what humanity is made of." A harsh, guttural voice suddenly cut through the comms, sending a chill down Ilara's spine. A holographic image appeared before her, a tall, reptilian figure with piercing, malicious eyes. "You have entered restricted imperial space," the alien growled. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Ilara stood firm, locking eyes with the hologram. "I am Captain Ilara Rhodes of the U.S. Resolute. We are on a peaceful mission and did not intend to intrude. We were unaware of any territorial claims in this sector." The alien's lips curled into a cruel smile. "A human vessel, so far from your insignificant home. How fortunate for us. We shall begin by destroying you, and with you, the seed of your species." The transmission cut off abruptly. Ilara turned to Aora, her mind racing. "What are our chances?" Aora calculated the odds in mere seconds. "Their fleet vastly outnumbers us, Captain. We are outgunned by several orders of magnitude. Survival chances are less than 0.01%. Ilara smiled grimly. "Good thing we don't rely on the odds, Aora. Prepare the Nexus Core. Full power to shields and weapons. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." With a quiet hum, the Resolute's systems came alive, the shields glowing with a bright blue energy, and weapons primed for combat. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The Imperial fleet launched its first wave of fighters, a swarm of agile ships descending upon the Resolute with deadly precision. Their weapons glowed with an eerie energy, their missiles streaking toward the lone human vessel. "Evasive maneuvers," Ilara ordered, her hands flying over the controls. The Resolute responded with fluid precision, twisting and turning in ways no enemy ship had ever seen. The first wave of fire missed by mere inches, and Ilara could feel the heat of near-miss blasts vibrating through the hull of her ship. Give me options," she said, her voice steady, even as her heart pounded in her chest. Analyzing enemy patterns and recalibrating shields, Aora responded. "The Imperial weapons are a threat, but we can adapt." As Ilara guided the Resolute through the onslaught of enemy fire, she knew one thing for certain. Humanity wasn't going to go down without a fight. The battle begins. The calm of space was shattered by the sudden roar of conflict. Captain Ilara Rhodes gripped the controls of the U.S. Resolute, her mind sharp with focus. The fleet of alien ships, their monstrous forms looming in the void, was no longer just a distant threat. It was a deadly reality. With the first wave of enemy fighters streaking toward them, the Resolute's engines fired into overdrive. The ship responded like an extension of Ilara's own will, dancing through space with an agility that seemed impossible for a vessel of its size. The Imperial fleet's fighters were fast, sleek, and armed to the teeth, but the Resolute was more than just a ship. It was a reflection of humanity's creativity, ingenuity, and relentless drive. "Evasive maneuvers, Aora. Get us out of this," Ilara barked. Her fingers flew across the console, the ship's systems coming to life under her command. Aora, the ship's AI, was the perfect partner, an unflinching, precise intellect working in perfect harmony with Ilara's intuition. "Executing evasive course now, Captain," Aora responded, her voice calm amidst the chaos. The ship twisted in space, narrowly avoiding a barrage of laser fire that would have shredded any lesser vessel. Ilara could feel the shudder as the missiles zoomed past, their energy waves pulsing in the distance. The first wave of Imperial fighters, dozens of sleek, razor-sharp ships, had closed in on the Resolute. They were relentless, attacking in precise, coordinated swarms. Ilara gritted her teeth as she guided the ship through a series of sharp turns, avoiding a second volley of fire. "Shields at 60%, Captain," Aore reported. "We're holding, but the energy drain is significant. If they continue at this rate, we won't last long." Ilara's heart raced, but her resolve was unwavering. She had no intention of surrendering, not while humanity's future hung in the balance. Recalibrate shields, adapt to their weapon frequencies. The ship's systems hummed with activity, and Ilara felt the change almost immediately. The shields shimmered as they reconfigured, becoming more resistant to the enemy's energy weapons. The Resolute was learning, adapting, just like the humans who had built it. "Good," Ilara muttered under her breath. She knew the battle would be a marathon, not a sprint. If they were going to survive, they needed to outlast the Empire's onslaught. But humanity had always been resourceful, and Ilara wasn't about to let them fall now. "Let's take the fight to them, Aore," Ilara said, her voice steely with determination. She slammed the throttle forward, sending the Resolute hurtling toward the center of the Imperial formation. The ship surged forward with a burst of speed, its engines roaring as it tore through the black void. The Imperial fleet was massive, hundreds of ships, each larger and more powerful than the Resolute. But their sheer size and firepower were their weaknesses. They relied on brute force, on overwhelming strength. But Ilara knew that humanity's greatest asset was its adaptability, its ability to think outside the box, to turn the tide of any battle. As the Resolute barreled toward the heart of the Imperial fleet, Ilara's mind raced with strategies. She had to get close enough to disable the enemy's command ship. If they took out the fleet's leader, the rest of the armada would fall into chaos. But the enemy was cunning, and they wouldn't make it easy. "Enemy warships closing in," Aore reported. "They've locked onto our position. Heavy fire incoming." The Resolute was caught in a deadly crossfire, laser blasts and missile salvos coming from every direction. The ship shook violently as it dodged and weaved through the storm of fire, but the Imperial ships were relentless. "We need to split them up," Ilara said, formulating a plan on the fly. "Aore, adjust course for a sharp dive toward their lower flank. Then, initiate a decoy loop to draw their fire away." "Understood, Captain," Aore replied. The ship tilted downward, diving toward the lower edge of the Imperial formation. At the same time, the Resolute's onboard decoy system activated, deploying multiple holographic projections of the ship to confuse the enemy's targeting systems. The Imperial fleet's fire began to scatter as the decoys drew some of their focus away. But the real challenge lay ahead. They had to find the fleet's command ship, the heart of the Imperial war machine, and strike it down. "Keep us moving, Aore," Ilara shouted, her eyes scanning the fleet for the weak points. "Find me a path to their leader." Aora's voice was calm but urgent. "I'm detecting a large capital ship at the center of the fleet. It's heavily guarded, but it seems to be directing the movements of the entire armada. If we disable it, the rest of their forces may lose cohesion." Ilara's eyes narrowed with focus. "That's our target. Full power to forward shields and weapons. Prepare to launch a full strike." The Resolute surged forward once again, its weapons primed for battle. They had found their prey. Now, it was time to strike. The capital ship loomed ahead, a towering behemoth of alien technology. Its hull was covered in jagged edges and strange, alien symbols, a clear testament to the Empire's overwhelming power. But the closer the Resolute got, the more Ilara could see its weaknesses. Its armor was thick, but not impenetrable. Its weapons were powerful, but predictable. "We've reached optimal range," Captain Aore announced. "Shields are holding at 40%. Weapons are locked on." "Let's make this count," Ilara said, her voice steady as the Resolute's main cannons powered up. She fired without hesitation. The first salvo tore into the command ship shield, sending shockwaves through space. The enemy fleet retaliated immediately, firing everything they had at the lone human vessel. But Ilara wasn't done. She quickly adjusted her aim, targeting a vulnerable section of the capital ship's hull. Another volley from the Resolute's weapons struck true, and the command ship's outer armor buckled. A hole appeared, just big enough for the Resolute to make a final devastating attack. Ilara grinned fiercely. All power to the main cannons. Aim for that breach, she commanded. The Resolute fired again, the beam of energy cutting through the heart of the alien ship. A massive explosion erupted from the capital ship, sending debris flying in every direction. For a moment, space seemed to freeze. The Imperial fleet faltered, their coordination broken as their leadership was torn apart. A new sense of chaos spread through the Armada as they scrambled to regroup. "We've done it, Captain," Aurora said, a note of triumph in her voice. "Their command ship is destroyed. The fleet is in disarray." Ilara took a deep breath, watching as the Imperial fleet began to scatter. It wasn't over yet, but this battle had proven one thing. Humanity, with its determination and innovation, could stand against the galaxy's mightiest forces. The Resolute wasn't just a ship. It was a symbol of what humans could achieve when they pushed the limits of their creativity and resilience. And today, it had shown the galaxy exactly what humanity was capable of. The tide turns. The battle raged on, and the cold vastness of space had become a fiery battlefield. The U.S. Resolute, battered but unyielding, danced through the chaotic storm of alien fire. The once overwhelming Imperial fleet, now disrupted and in disarray, struggled to regain its footing after the destruction of its command ship. Captain Ilara Rhodes knew this moment could be humanity's turning point, but the fight was far from over. Their victory so far had come at a steep price, and she couldn't afford to lose focus now. "Aurora, what's the status of the remaining Imperial ships?" Ilara asked, her voice steady, despite the wild pace of her heart. Aurora's voice hummed in her ear, cool and calculated as always. "Captain, the fleet is scattering. Several of their warships are attempting to regroup, but many are disoriented. They're still formidable, but their cohesion has been broken. However, we can expect reinforcements soon. More ships are emerging from the edge of the system." Ilara's grip tightened on the control panel. Reinforcements meant more enemies, and they were already stretched thin. "How many ships are we dealing with?" "Estimated 300 units are still operational, Captain. Another 100 are unaccounted for. Reinforcements are expected to arrive in approximately 10 minutes. The timeline was tight. She had to act fast, or the Resolute wouldn't survive a second wave. She glanced out toward the disorganized fleet in front of her. The Imperials had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back. But now, with the remnants of their fleet on the defensive, Ilara saw an opportunity to turn the tide. "Aurora, give me a full scan of the remaining enemy ships," Ilara said, formulating a new plan. "Find me a weak point." The AI responded immediately, the ship's advanced sensors sweeping across the Imperial fleet. "I've detected a pattern, Captain. The remaining warships are pulling into smaller groups, likely to prepare for coordinated retaliation. However, there's a sector where they are vulnerable. Their supply lines are weak. If we can disable their resupply ships, we'll break their ability to wage a prolonged battle." A sense of hope flickered in Ilara's chest. A targeted strike could cripple the fleet's chances of recovery. She wasn't about to let this opportunity slip through her fingers. "Plot a course for the supply lines. We need to strike fast," Ilara ordered. "Get us close to their vulnerable supply ships. We'll take them out one by one." The Resolute's engines roared to life as Ilara punched the command into the console. The ship's sleek form cut through the stars, maneuvering toward the Imperial supply vessels hidden among the chaos. They were smaller, less heavily armed than the warships, but they were essential for maintaining the Imperial fleet's operations. If she could sever their lifelines, the battle would soon be over. As the Resolute neared the target zone, Ilara's hands moved swiftly, ensuring the ship remained undetected. Stealth was key. The supply vessels were surrounded by a perimeter of warships, but with their fleet in disarray, the guard ships were distracted. This was her chance to strike fast and hard. "We're in position," Captain Aore announced. "Sensors indicate that the supply vessels are lightly guarded, but their defenses are still formidable." Ilara took a deep breath. The battle was reaching its climax. This was a bold move, but humanity's survival depended on taking risks. "Prepare the weapons, Aore. We'll take out their power generators first. After that, we disable their communication systems. Without those, they'll be blind and crippled." Aore responded with a precise calculation. Power systems charging. Weapons primed. The Resolute powered forward, its sleek hull sliding effortlessly through the black void. With her mind focused, Ilara leaned forward, keeping her eyes locked on the small supply ships ahead. She couldn't afford to miss. The fate of the galaxy might rest on this one shot. "Now, Ora," Ilara commanded. The Resolute's forward cannons unleashed a devastating barrage of fire, striking the nearest supply ship with pinpoint accuracy. The ship's power core erupted in a spectacular display of energy, sending shockwaves through space. The explosion was blinding, and for a brief moment, Ilara could hear the distant hum of the ship's systems over the communications channels, her own pulse syncing with the beat of the battle. "Direct hit," Captain Aore confirmed. "First supply vessel neutralized." Preparing for the second target, Ilara's eyes remained fixed on the remaining ships. The destruction of the first supply vessel had already caused chaos among the Imperial forces. The remaining warships scrambled to reposition, trying to adjust to the loss of one of their critical lifelines. Ilara's instincts screamed at her to press the attack. The longer they waited, the more likely the enemy would recover. The realization hit Ilara sharply. This was it, the key to disrupting their command, the ship that tied the entire fleet together. Plot a course directly to that flagship. "We're going in full throttle." "No hesitation." "Acknowledged," Aure replied, the ship's engines powering up in response to Ilara's command. "Captain, we'll need to stay out of their firing range while we approach. Their shields are strong, and they will detect us if we're not careful." Ilara nodded. Stealth was essential, but she knew they couldn't wait forever. Their best chance was to strike fast and with precision. "Activate all stealth systems, engage at maximum speed, and keep us out of sight." The Resolute surged forward, its cloaking systems humming as they enveloped the ship in a veil of invisibility. The vastness of space seemed to stretch around them as they edged closer to the heart of the Imperial fleet. The enemy flagship loomed ahead, surrounded by a fleet of warships, all oblivious to the approaching human vessel. Minutes passed like hours. The ship's sensors hummed quietly, feeding data to Ilara, showing the precise positions of enemy vessels as they continued to move and adjust. They were closing in, and every second counted. "Aore, are we in position?" Ilara asked, her fingers tapping impatiently on the console. "We are within optimal range, Captain," Aore responded, her tone even but filled with urgency. "The flagship's shields are vulnerable to direct fire, but we must approach carefully. If they detect us too soon, we won't survive the retaliation." Ilara's mind raced. One misstep, and they could be overwhelmed by the sheer might of the Imperial fleet. But if they succeeded, they would deal a devastating blow to their enemies. The ship, the beating heart of the Imperial fleet, was their target. Destroy it, and the rest of the armada would falter. "Fire when ready," Ilara ordered. The Resolute's weapons primed, the energy gathering for a single, decisive strike. Ilara's eyes locked onto the target as the ship's systems calculated the perfect trajectory. A low hum filled the bridge, the tension palpable. "Captain, shields are holding steady," Aore reported. "Weapons locked on target." "Let's finish this," Ilara said, her voice low but fierce. With a resounding roar, the Resolute's cannons fired, unleashing a devastating beam of concentrated energy straight at the flagship's exposed hull. Time seemed to slow as the beam ripped through space, tearing into the heart of the massive ship. The flagship's shields buckled under the force, and in a flash, the armor splintered, revealing the core of the vessel. The flagship shuddered violently as the energy blast hit home. For a brief moment, Ilara thought she saw the flagship falter, a brief flicker of hope as the mighty ship was struck in its weakest point. But then the explosion erupted. The shockwave was deafening. Even at the distance the Resolute had maintained. The flagship's core exploded in a blaze of blinding light, and the surrounding Imperial ships were caught in the blast, their shields ineffective against the sheer force of the explosion. The wave of destruction tore through the Imperial formation, throwing the entire fleet into disarray. "Aurora, report," Ilara barked, her heart pounding in her chest. "The flagship has been destroyed, Captain," Aurora replied, her voice tinged with a hint of triumph. "The remaining Imperial ships are scattered. They are retreating. The battle is ours." For the first time in what felt like forever, Ilara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The Imperials, their command structure shattered, had no way to coordinate their response. The remaining warships, now without a leader, were easy pickings. As the last of the Imperial ships withdrew into the black void of space, Ilara allowed herself a moment of relief. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven themselves capable of facing the most formidable threats the galaxy had ever known. But even as the battle ended, Ilara knew this was only the beginning. The Resolute had struck a mighty blow, but there was still much to be done. The Empire might retreat for now, but they would not forget the lesson humanity had taught them. Ilara Rhodes looked out at the stars, her resolve steeling once more. Humanity had shown its strength, and they would continue to fight, for Earth, for the future, and for the survival of their species. Into the heart of darkness, the Resolute drifted through the void, its systems humming with the aftermath of their monumental victory. Captain Ilara Rhodes stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the glowing expanse of stars ahead. The battle against the Imperial fleet had taken a heavy toll, but humanity had struck a decisive blow. Their flagship was gone, its command shattered. The remnants of the once powerful armada were now scattered, retreating into the dark corners of space. But Ilara knew this victory wasn't the end. The battle might have been won, but the war was far from over. The Empire would not simply disappear into the darkness. It was a force built on centuries of power, and they would return. The time to regroup, to recover, was short. Humanity had awakened the beast, and it was only a matter of time before the Empire came back with vengeance in their hearts. "Aurora," Ilara said, her voice unwavering. "What's the status of the remaining Imperial forces? Can we afford to rest for long?" Aurora's voice filled the bridge, steady and precise. "Captain, the remaining Imperial ships have retreated, but their retreat is strategic. They are gathering in a far-off system, likely preparing for reinforcements. Their leadership will attempt to reorganize, but the loss of their flagship has caused a significant disruption. They will need time to recover." The relief Ilara felt was tempered by the weight of the situation. Time was a luxury they could not afford. "How much time do we have?" Aurora processed the data in real time. Estimates suggest that the Imperial fleet will be ready for a counterattack within 2 to 3 weeks. The reinforcements are already en route, and their numbers are substantial. 2 to 3 weeks. That was all they had to fortify their defenses, warn Earth, and prepare for the next inevitable clash. Ilara turned away from the console, her eyes narrowing. The coming days would be critical. This was humanity's chance to build upon its hard-won momentum. "We need to make contact with Earth," Ilara ordered. "Prepare a transmission to command. Let's make sure they know what's coming." The ship's communication array hummed to life, but as Ilara spoke, a sinking feeling grew in her chest. Earth had no idea what had happened. They were still blissfully unaware of the threat that was heading their way. The Empire's ships had left a wake of devastation, and the coming reinforcements would bring unimaginable power. As the transmission went through, Ilara's mind raced with possibilities. Could humanity stand its ground once more? Could they hold off an enemy of this magnitude? "I'm putting out a distress signal to Earth's Central Command," Aurora said. "They'll know what happened to the fleet. However, there are no guarantees that we'll receive support in time. The enemy's reach is vast." A surge of anger rose within Ilara. Earth had always been the heart of humanity, but the universe was vast. They were alone out here. "Then we'll prepare ourselves," she said coldly. "A lone vessel can't face an armada. But a unified force, we'll need every ally we can find." "Acknowledged, Captain." Preparing for full-scale defense operations, Ilara didn't want to just survive. She wanted to ensure humanity would never again be caught unprepared. The Empire had underestimated them once, but the next time they came, humanity would be ready. Their ingenuity, their resilience, it was a weapon more powerful than any fleet could ever hope to wield. As the Resolute set a course back toward the Sol system, the crew worked tirelessly to repair and recalibrate their systems. The quiet, almost serene hum of the ship's engines now carried an edge of urgency. The coming storm was closer than ever, and every moment counted. The ship's AI, Aurora, worked behind the scenes to optimize their defenses, while Ilara and her crew laid the groundwork for the next phase. The work was grueling, but there was an air of determination on the bridge. Every crew member knew their place, their role in ensuring humanity's survival. They had faced the unknown, defied impossible odds, and emerged victorious. But the real fight was about to begin. Weeks passed in a blur of preparation. The crew trained harder than ever before, honing their skills in combat and strategy. Ilara herself spent countless hours poring over battle data, refining the tactics that had given them the upper hand in the last skirmish. Each briefing brought more bad news. The Empire was massing reinforcements, preparing for their inevitable return. But Ilara had one thing the Empire could never replicate: a spirit that would not be crushed. The human drive to fight for survival, for a future, was limitless. It wasn't just technology that made humanity formidable. It was the heart and soul of each individual who dared to stand up and fight. "Captain, we've received word from Earth," Aurora announced one evening, breaking the silence that had settled over the ship. "Earth Command has confirmed they are aware of the threat. They are preparing a counter-offensive." Ilara breathed a sigh of relief, but the weight of their responsibility remained. Earth would be ready, but they still had a long road ahead of them. "What's the timeline for their reinforcements?" "Earth Command estimates that they will be able to send backup within 3 days. However, their fleet is currently spread thin due to other interstellar conflicts. It will take time for them to fully mobilize." 3 days. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. "Then we've got 3 days to fortify our defenses, scout the enemy's movements, and prepare for their assault. We cannot afford to waste a single moment," Ilara said, her voice firm, unwavering. The battle lines were drawn. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or weaponry. It was the will to survive, to stand together in the face of overwhelming odds. Ilara knew the coming days would be the most difficult of their lives, but she also knew this: humanity would never go down without a fight. With a final glance at the stars, Ilara set her course. The Resolute had proven itself once, and it would do so again. It would lead humanity into the heart of darkness, and from there, they would carve out a future. This was no longer just a battle for survival. This was a fight for their place in the galaxy, and Ilara Rhodes would not let humanity fall, not on her watch. The gathering storm. The hum of the U.S. Resolute's engines was a constant presence, a reassuring reminder that the crew was alive, and humanity was still standing. But beneath the surface, there was a tension in the air that couldn't be ignored. Captain Ilara Rhodes paced the bridge, eyes flicking over the data streaming in from every corner of their sensors. The fleet they had so boldly faced was now regrouping, and their reinforcements were drawing near. Time was running out. The storm that had already begun to swirl around them was only getting stronger. Aurora, give me an update, Ilara said, her voice sharp as she stopped in front of the command station. Aurora's calm voice echoed through the bridge. Captain, the Imperial fleet has begun to consolidate in the Korma system. They are amassing their forces, likely in preparation for a counteroffensive. Reinforcements are arriving in waves. At their current rate of acceleration, they will be in position to strike within 48 hours. Ilara clenched her fists. 2 days. That was all they had to prepare. It wasn't nearly enough, but it was all they had. We've got to be ready. We can't afford to waste time, Ilara said, turning to face the rest of the bridge crew. Prep the ship for battle. Double-check all weapon systems. Are the shields operating at full capacity? Shields are operating at 96% capacity, Captain, Aurora replied. However, based on the incoming analysis of Imperial forces, they will likely push past our defenses with sheer firepower if we don't optimize our systems. We may need to adjust our approach. Ilara's gaze hardened. Then we adjust. We adapt, like we've always done. Humanity survives because we never stop evolving, never stop pushing back. This fight isn't just about firepower. It's about outthinking them, outmaneuvering them. We'll rely on our strengths, the creativity, the adaptability that the Empire could never have predicted. As she spoke, Ilara felt the weight of the situation settle into her bones. The battle was not only about firepower, but strategy, speed, and most importantly, unity. Earth's reinforcements were still a couple of days away, and while they had made progress in their preparations, humanity was still a long way from having the sheer numbers of the Empire. They would have to make every ship, every strategy count. Coordinate with Earth Command, Ilara ordered, her eyes narrowing. We need to maximize our advantage. I want them to start relaying every scrap of intelligence they have about the Empire's movements. We're going to take them by surprise. Minutes stretched into hours as the Resolute's crew scrambled to put together a defense plan. The clock was ticking. The crew worked tirelessly, familiar faces who had grown accustomed to the strain of constant combat and the weight of humanity's survival hanging in the balance. Their efforts were the backbone of the ship, and Ilara could feel their determination as if it were her own. Despite the mounting pressure, Ilara knew this was the time to lead. She took a deep breath, standing at the center of the bridge, feeling the pulse of the Resolute beneath her feet. She had led them through the first battle, the unexpected conflict with the Imperial fleet, and now they were on the precipice of the next phase. This time, she would not just be leading a crew into battle. She would be guiding humanity itself into its future. Here's the plan, Ilara began, gathering the crew around her. The Imperial fleet is predictable. They rely on strength in numbers, on brute force. But their true vulnerability lies in their arrogance. They think they can crush us with sheer power, but we've already shown them what humanity is capable of. We will use that against them. Prepare our fleet protocols. We're going to divide and conquer. Aurora's voice responded with quiet efficiency. Understood, Captain. Dividing our resources into smaller, more agile attack groups will allow us to outflank the enemy. Exactly. We'll use hit-and-run tactics, harrying their fleet and keeping them disoriented. At the same time, we'll keep our primary forces concentrated on their vulnerable sectors, their supply lines, their command vessels. We'll disrupt their ability to coordinate, and when their fleet falls into disarray, we'll strike for the heart. The crew nodded, each person committed to the cause. The plan was risky, but it was humanity's best chance. There was no room for hesitation now. This would be a battle fought on multiple fronts, one that would require precision, timing, and a good dose of luck. But Ilara had no doubt. Humanity's ingenuity would carry them through. Minutes later, the Resolute was preparing to move out. The bridge was alive with activity, the crew members executing their tasks with a sense of urgency and unity. Aurora ran the final diagnostic checks on their systems, ensuring the ship was ready for the battle that awaited them. Ilara, Commander Haruto Tanaka called from the weapons station. His voice steadied despite the gravity of the situation. "We're good to go. All weapons systems online. The missiles are primed, and our shield generators are at full strength." Ilara gave him a small nod, her face hardening with resolve. "Then we're ready. Prepare to move out. I want us in position within the next hour." As the crew went about their work, Ilara took one last glance at the stars beyond the Resolute's bridge. She couldn't help but think of Earth, of the people there who still had no idea what was coming. She knew the fight would be long, and the cost would be high. But as long as humanity had a will to fight, they would stand tall. She turned away from the viewport, her mind focused entirely on the task at hand. "Are you ready? Start the countdown. Let's show them that humanity doesn't back down." The ship surged forward, its engines firing as the Resolute broke free from its momentary stillness. Ahead of them, the Imperial fleet was preparing its next move, confident in its overwhelming might. But as they approached the heart of the enemy's forces, Ilara knew something the Imperials didn't. Humanity had something they could never have: the will to survive. The battle for the future of humanity was about to begin in earnest, and the Resolute was at the center of it all. With each passing second, the storm grew stronger, but Ilara stood at the eye, calm and resolute, ready to face whatever came next. They would not go quietly. They would fight, and they would win.